imagine a name. Just a name, scrawled on a faded, yellowing file. A patient file, hidden deep within an abandoned asylum, in a locked ward that felt colder, somehow, than the rest. And on that file, not a diagnosis, but a single, chilling word. Project. What kind of patient is a project? What kind of doctor logs a human being as an experiment, then buries their existence so thoroughly that even the official records hold no trace? Tonight, we're going to uncover a story about such a place, such files, and the terrifying truth of what someone went to extreme lengths to keep hidden. This isn't a ghost story, not in the traditional sense. You won't find jump scares lurking in the shadows of this tale. Instead, this is a story of human darkness, of methodical cruelty, and the chilling silence that falls when a terrible secret is finally unearthed. It's a late-night warning, a whisper from the past, reminding us that some horrors are far more tangible than specters. We'll follow the breadcrumbs of a truth that should have stayed buried, a truth so disturbing it warped the very purpose of an institution built to heal. By the end, you'll understand why these files shouldn't exist, and perhaps why they had to be found. Our story begins a few years ago, deep in the desolate countryside, at a place known locally as Blackwood Asylum. It was a sprawling, Gothic monument to forgotten suffering, isolated and overgrown, whispered about in hushed tones by the nearest townsfolk. 3 urban explorers, let's call them the Nocturne Crew, had finally managed to gain access. They were seasoned veterans of abandoned places, accustomed to decay, the echoes of the past, and the faint, melancholy scent of dust and neglect. But Blackwood felt different, heavier. They moved through the administrative offices first, then the patient wings, their flashlights cutting through the oppressive darkness. Every cracked tile, every peeling paint chip, every rusted bed frame told a story of neglect. But then they found it, a ward, unlike the others. The door to Ward 7 was not merely locked, it was reinforced, bolted shut from the outside, not to keep patients in, but to keep everything out. It felt less like a medical facility and more like a tomb. With some effort and the right tools, they managed to pry open the heavy, rusted bolts. The air inside was different, still, cold, thick with an odor that was hard to place, like ozone or old blood, mixed with something chemical. Inside, Ward 7 was unlike any other part of Blackwood. Instead of rows of beds, there were individual cells, smaller, starker, with no windows, and in the center of the main hall, a large, heavy steel cabinet bolted to the floor. This was highly unusual. Why a secure storage cabinet in a patient ward? And why was it so meticulously hidden behind a door that was practically a vault? The Nocturne Crew felt a growing unease. This wasn't just neglect, this was intentional. After another hour of careful work, the cabinet finally yielded. Inside, it wasn't medical supplies or personal effects. It was filled from top to bottom with file boxes, not the typical official patient records found elsewhere in the asylum. These were different, thicker paper, bound with crude string, and stamped with a bizarre, almost military-style serial number. They pulled out the top box. It was filled with files, each one marked with a patient name and a numerical code, but beneath each name, in bold, stark lettering, was that single horrifying word, project. Here's what we know so far. An abandoned asylum, a sealed ward, and hidden files referring to patients as projects. The first file they opened felt impossibly heavy. Patient name, Elias Thorne. Project designation, 7B. The handwriting inside was small, meticulous, almost obsessive. It detailed daily observations, dietary intake, sleep patterns, all very clinical. But then they found the diagrams, crude, hand-drawn schematics of the human brain, annotated with symbols and arrows that made no sense, and beneath them a series of graphs tracking neural response to stimulus. The stimulus was vaguely described, but the resulting response was terrifying. They looked at each other, their faces pale in the flashlight beams. This wasn't therapy. This wasn't even standard medical practice for the era. This was something else entirely. They found records of sessions that spoke of patients being prepared for observation, of baseline recalibrations, and controlled environments. As they dug deeper, another detail emerged repeatedly. The patients in Ward 7 were all listed as having atypical cognitive patterns or heightened sensory perception before admission. They weren't just mentally ill, they were different.
One file for a patient designated Project Echo sent a shiver down their spines. It described an experiment where the patient was subjected to prolonged, focused sensory deprivation, followed by rapid, intense stimulation. The results section detailed a complete breakdown of mental faculties, followed by a chilling line. Subject now compliant. Verbal output limited to simple affirmations. Further testing pending. Imagine finding that. Imagine knowing that the people confined in those cells, behind those locked doors, weren't being treated. They were being broken, methodically, and documented with terrifying precision, as if they were specimens. The Nocturne Crew spent the rest of the night, and indeed many nights after, poring over those files. Their initial excitement about exploring an abandoned asylum had given way to a cold, methodical horror. Blackwood wasn't just an abandoned hospital, it was a clandestine laboratory. The official records for Blackwood Asylum, held in state archives, made no mention of Ward 7, no mention of Project Echo, or any of the other designated projects. It was as if this entire wing and the human lives it contained had been erased from existence. These were files that shouldn't exist because, according to official history, these patients and these experiments never happened. What still doesn't feel right, even now, is the meticulous nature of the cover-up. The reinforced door, the hidden cabinet, the non-standard files, the complete lack of official record. This wasn't an oversight. This was deliberate. Someone, or some group, went to immense trouble to ensure that what happened in Ward 7 stayed buried. They didn't just abandon the asylum, they actively tried to purge its most heinous secret. The question isn't just what happened, but who orchestrated it, and why those specific individuals were chosen as projects. The Nocturne Crew eventually reported their findings, but without the full weight of official backing and the passage of so much time, the files remain a chilling testament to a truth that hovers just outside history, a truth of lives turned into experiments, documented in files that were never meant to see the light of day, just like the one we started with, for Project Elias Thorne. This story, like so many urban legends, leaves us with more questions than answers. What do you think happened to the patients of Ward 7? Was it rogue doctors, a secret government program, or something even darker? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If stories like this, the chilling whispers from the forgotten corners of our world, intrigue you, then please consider hitting that subscribe button and joining our late-night exploration into the unknown. We'll keep the lights low, and the stories even lower.